with what a day at the White House. A day that only President Trump could put together. Yes, we had all those European leaders coming in, joining Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, to talk about how do we get peace between Russia and Ukraine. This follows, of course, President Trump's historic meeting with Vladimir Putin in Alaska on Friday. Now, the mainstream media still refuses to give President Trump any credit for this. But by and large, I look back at history, I don't think this has ever been done before. The media doesn't understand how deals are made. They are so focused on that a result has not occurred yet. Instead of looking at the process and how this process and the wheels are turning, that we move towards peace, something Joe Biden could never do before. Now, coming out of this meeting, we have the possibility of a trilateral meeting with Vladimir Putin, Vladimir Zelensky, and yes, quite possibly even President Trump meeting within the next 9 or 10 days. Listen.
But I believe a peace agreement at the end of all of this is something that's very attainable, and it can be done in the near future. With all of the wars that I got involved in, we only have this one left. Of course, as I walk out the door, there'll probably be a new one starting, and I'll get that stopped too. But I thought this was going to be one of the easier ones. It's actually one of the most difficult. They're very complex. The next step would be for a trilateral meeting.
You can go into Asia. President Trump has stopped wars. Africa, President Trump has put an end to wars. I count 6 of them at least. This one would be the next. It seems to be the toughest one to stop. We are getting word, breaking in some respects, that a high-ranking foreign minister inside Russia says any kind of a security guarantee by NATO forces, meaning NATO peacekeepers on the ground in Ukraine, would be a, quote, deal breaker. This was being thrown around as Article 5-like protections, meaning Ukraine wouldn't get entry into NATO, but if they were attacked, Article 5-like protections would then spring into place. That would mean European nations, quite possibly the United States, would be forced to defend Ukraine against Russia. I'm not happy about that as far as American involvement. President Trump says, look, it's up to Europe first. They're the ones that are in their back door. But all of this, as security guarantees were being talked about, President Trump got a big piece of praise from the Secretary General of NATO.
And let's make the best out of today and make sure that from today onwards, we get this thing to an end as soon as possible. I really want to thank you for your leadership, what you are doing for Vladimir, but of course also all the European colleagues. It is really crucial. And the fact that you have said, I'm willing to participate in the security guarantees is a big step. It's really a breakthrough, and it makes all the difference. So also thank you for that.
Look, if the United States is going to sell weapons to Europe and Ukraine, I'm all good with that. No more free stuff. And I certainly don't want American boots on the ground in Ukraine fighting Russian soldiers sometimes down the line. Here's the reality. I don't trust Zelensky. I don't trust Putin. So if you have a deal in place, you've got to have parameters in place that ensure the deal has to be kept. Without it, you're really only getting a ceasefire for a few months until one or the other break the deal. Now, Putin and Zelensky, again, the media fails to understand how you get to a deal and the process that has to take place here to get to a trilateral meeting. Zelensky, Putin in one room with President Trump there. Wow, this is Zelensky.
And the constitution of Ukraine makes it impossible to give up territory or trade land. Since the territorial issue is so important, it should be discussed only by the leaders of Ukraine and Russia at the trilateral Ukraine, United States, Russia. So far, Russia gives no sign that trilateral will happen, and if Russia refuses, then new sanctions must follow.
All right, so Zelensky needs to stop dictating to what everybody else needs to do and focus on what he needs to do to end the war. My humble opinion. I want to bring in